What if the secret to making someone miss you lies not in chasing after them, but in letting go completely? It sounds counterintuitive, doesn't it? Yet, this is exactly what the Stoic Law of Detachment teaches us. At its core, detachment isn't about indifference or apathy. It's about freeing yourself from the emotional chains of attachment while still valuing the connection. Stoicism, an ancient philosophy practiced by some of history's most resilient minds, offers a profound approach to modern relationships and personal growth. By embracing detachment, you gain clarity, inner peace, and a sense of self-worth that naturally draws others toward you. In this video, we'll explore how the Stoic Law of Detachment can transform not just the way you approach relationships, but the way you navigate life itself. Are you ready to discover the surprising power of letting go? To truly grasp the Stoic Law of Detachment, we need to start by understanding what it means to detach, not from people or experiences, but from the need to control how they unfold. The Stoics believed that our suffering often stems from clinging too tightly to outcomes, whether it's the approval of others, the success of a relationship, or even the way we expect life to go. Detachment, in this sense, is about releasing that grip and focusing instead on what's within our control, our own thoughts, actions, and reactions. Epictetus, one of Stoicism's most influential thinkers, put it simply: some things are within our power while others are not. By accepting this truth, we free ourselves from the emotional turbulence of trying to manage the uncontrollable. Imagine the weight that lifts when you stop obsessing over how someone feels about you or whether a situation will turn out the way you hope. This inner freedom doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop letting external outcomes dictate your peace. In fact, it's this very freedom that can create deeper, more genuine connections. When you're no longer seeking validation or trying to manipulate outcomes, you show up as your authentic self, and that authenticity is magnetic. It's a paradox, really. By letting go, you become more present, more open, and ultimately, more connected to the people and experiences that truly matter. At first glance, detachment and connection might seem like opposites. How can stepping back from someone or something bring you closer? Yet, this paradox lies at the heart of Stoic philosophy. Think about it. When you're constantly preoccupied with what someone thinks of you or whether they'll stay in your life, it often leads to behaviors that push them away: clinginess, neediness, or even desperation. These behaviors stem from fear, and fear has a way of distorting how we show up in relationships. Detachment, on the other hand, creates space, a kind of emotional breathing room that allows both people to engage authentically. It's like tending to a garden. If you're always pulling at the plants to make them grow faster, you'll end up damaging the roots. But if you give them the right conditions, sunlight, water, and care without interference, they'll flourish on their own. In relationships, detachment works similarly. By letting go of the need to control or possess, you create an environment where trust and respect can naturally grow. This doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop suffocating the connection with your own anxieties. Have you ever noticed how people seem to gravitate toward those who exude confidence and self-assurance? It's because they're not seeking validation or approval, they're simply being themselves. Take a moment to reflect. Have you ever experienced a relationship that deepened when you stopped trying so hard to make it work? Sometimes the best way to connect is to let go and allow the relationship to evolve in its own time and way. Have you ever noticed how something becomes infinitely more appealing the moment it feels out of reach? This phenomenon isn't just coincidence, it's rooted in the psychology of scarcity. When something feels rare or unattainable, our brains instinctively assign it greater value. It's why limited edition items sell out so quickly, or why someone might suddenly seem more interesting when they're not fully available. But here's the catch: this same principle often leads to frustration and dissatisfaction. Chasing what we can't have keeps us in a perpetual state of longing, always reaching for the next thing that seems just out of grasp. The Stoics recognized this long before modern psychology, and their wisdom offers a way to break free from this cycle. Instead of fixating on what we lack or can't control, they encourage us to focus on what we can control: our own actions, mindset, and responses. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. This idea of embracing impermanence and redirecting our energy inward is transformative. When we stop chasing what's elusive and start valuing what's within our reach, we not only find peace but also become more grounded and self-assured. Think about it: when you're not constantly seeking validation or trying to possess what's out of reach, you naturally radiate a sense of contentment. And ironically, that's often what draws people closer to you. It's a subtle shift in perspective, but one that can profoundly change how you approach relationships and life itself. Now, let's talk about something many of us have experienced but rarely like to admit: the danger of over-attachment. In relationships, whether romantic, platonic, or even professional, over-attachment often manifests as insecurity and neediness. You might find yourself constantly checking their social media, sending one too many texts, or seeking reassurance that everything's okay. On the surface, these behaviors seem like acts of care or connection, but in reality, they often stem from a fear of losing the relationship. And here's the thing: that fear can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. When we're overly attached, we inadvertently create a dynamic that feels suffocating or overwhelming for the other person. It's like holding onto sand too tightly. The harder you grip, the more it slips through your fingers. The Stoics would argue that this kind of over-attachment is rooted in a lack of inner security. Instead of finding peace within ourselves, we look for it externally, placing our emotional well-being in the hands of others. But this is a fragile foundation. Imagine a scenario: you're in a new relationship and everything feels exciting but uncertain. Instead of letting things unfold naturally, you start overanalyzing every text, every pause in conversation, every little detail. You might even double text or ask for constant validation, hoping to ease your own anxiety. But what happens? The other person senses the neediness and starts to pull away, leaving you even more anxious. Contrast this with Stoic detachment, where you focus on your own sense of worth and let the relationship breathe. It's not about indifference, it's about trust in yourself and in the natural flow of the connection. By releasing the need to control, you create a healthier, more balanced dynamic. The irony is, when you stop trying so hard to hold on, you often find that the connection deepens on its own. So ask yourself, are your actions driven by genuine care, or are they rooted in fear? The answer might just shift the way you approach your relationships forever. A detachment is often misunderstood as indifference, but the two couldn't be more different. Indifference is a lack of care or concern, a cold distance from the world around you. Detachment, in the Stoic sense, is the opposite. It's about caring deeply but wisely. It's about engaging fully with life and relationships without letting them dictate your emotional state. Imagine you're watching a play. You're engrossed in the story, moved by the characters, but you know it's just a performance. You don't leap onto the stage to rewrite the script or demand a different ending. Instead, you appreciate the experience for what it is, allowing it to unfold without needing to control it. This is the essence of Stoic detachment: being present, engaged, and emotionally invested, yet grounded in the understanding that you can't control everything. Seneca, one of Stoicism's most eloquent voices, captured this balance beautifully when he said, "We should not let our emotions control us, but we should not suppress them entirely either." Instead, we should guide them with reason. In other words, it's okay to care deeply about a person, a goal, or a cause, but it's equally important to temper that care with wisdom. When you detach from the need for specific outcomes, you free yourself to experience the joy of connection without the fear of loss. This doesn't mean you stop feeling, it means you stop letting those feelings consume you. Think about a parent watching their child take their first steps. They're filled with pride and concern, but they don't try to carry the child forever. They let go, trusting in the process, knowing that growth happens through freedom, not control. In the same way, Stoic detachment allows you to love, to care, and to engage fully, all while maintaining the inner resilience to handle whatever comes your way. It's not about shutting down emotions, it's about elevating them with reason and perspective. One of the most profound gifts of detachment is the ability to be fully present in the moment. When you're not preoccupied with what someone thinks of you or how a situation might turn out, you're free to engage with life as it happens, right here, right now. This kind of presence is magnetic. It's the quality that makes people feel truly seen, heard, and valued in your company. Think about it. Have you ever been in a conversation where the other person was distracted, checking their phone, glancing around, or clearly thinking about something else? It doesn't feel great, does it? Now, think about someone who gives you their full attention, who listens intently and responds thoughtfully. That kind of presence creates a connection that's hard to forget. The Stoics understood this deeply. They believed that mindfulness, focusing on the present moment with clarity and intention, was essential for living a meaningful life. Epictetus once said, "The first task of the philosopher is to be present in their own lives." This isn't just about being physically there, it's about being mentally and emotionally engaged, free from the distractions of past regrets or future anxieties. When you detach from the need to control outcomes, you naturally become more present. You're no longer caught up in what ifs or should haves. You're simply here, fully experiencing the moment. And here's the beautiful part. This presence doesn't just benefit you, it makes you more appealing to others. People are drawn to those who make them feel valued and important, and nothing communicates that more than your undivided attention. Take a moment to reflect. How often are you truly present in your interactions? Are you giving your full attention, or are you distracted by worries, distractions, or the need to impress? By practicing Stoic detachment, you can cultivate a presence that not only enriches your own life, but also deepens your connections with others. Building inner confidence begins with a simple yet profound shift, turning your attention inward rather than seeking validation from the outside world. It's easy to fall into the trap of measuring your worth by how others see you through their praise, their attention, or their approval. But the Stoics remind us that this is a fragile foundation. External validation is fleeting. It can be given just as easily as it's taken away. True confidence comes from knowing your own value, independent of what others think. This is where detachment plays a pivotal role. By detaching from the need for external approval, you create space to focus on your own growth, values, and self-awareness. Imagine standing in front of a mirror not to judge your appearance, but to reflect on your character, your actions, and your intentions. This kind of self-reflection is a cornerstone of Stoic practice. Marcus Aurelius, in his private writings, often turned to his journal as a way to examine his thoughts and behaviors, asking himself questions like, "Am I living in alignment with my principles? Am I responding to challenges with integrity?" Journaling, as the Stoics practiced it, isn't just about recording events. It's a tool for deepening self-understanding and building inner strength. Here's a practical exercise you can try. At the end of each day, take a few minutes to write down 3 actions or decisions you're proud of. They don't have to be grand achievements. Even small acts of kindness, courage, or self-discipline count. Then reflect on how these actions align with your core values. Over time, this practice helps you recognize your own worth, not because someone else told you, but because you've taken the time to see it for yourself. When you stop seeking external approval and start cultivating internal validation, you'll find a confidence that's unshakable, a confidence that doesn't waver with the opinions of others, but grows stronger with each step you take toward becoming the person you aspire to be. Here's a question worth asking. Where does your sense of self-worth truly come from? If it's tied to the approval, admiration, or opinions of others, you're not alone. Most of us have been there. But the Stoics offer a radically different perspective. True self-worth isn't something others can give or take away. It's something you build within yourself. Epictetus, a philosopher who lived centuries ago but whose wisdom still resonates, put it this way: no one is free who is not master of themselves. In other words, your value isn't determined by how others see you, but by how you see yourself. This idea might feel foreign in a world that constantly tells us to seek validation through likes, followers, or praise. But think about it. If your self-worth depends on external approval, you'll always be chasing it, never truly content. On the other hand, when you root your worth in your own actions, principles, and character, you become unshakable. You stop needing others to affirm your value because you already know it. This isn't about arrogance, it's about inner stability. And here's the fascinating part. When you stop seeking validation, you paradoxically become more magnetic. People are drawn to those who radiate self-assurance, not because they're perfect, but because they're grounded in who they are. Take a moment to reflect. How much of your energy is spent trying to meet others' expectations or win their approval? What would it feel like to let that go and focus instead on living in alignment with your own values? By embracing this Stoic mindset, you'll find that your sense of self-worth becomes a sturdy foundation, one that supports you no matter what the outside world brings. And that, more than anything, is what makes you truly compelling. Gratitude might seem like an unlikely companion to detachment, but the two are deeply intertwined in Stoic philosophy. At its heart, gratitude is about focusing on what you have rather than what you lack. It's a way of shifting your attention from the uncontrollable to the present moment, where you can find meaning and contentment. The Stoics believed that true peace comes from accepting life as it is, not as we wish it to be. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself to accept the things to which fate binds you and love the people with whom fate brings you together. This isn't about passive resignation. It's about actively choosing to appreciate the good that exists, even when life feels imperfect. Gratitude helps you do just that. By acknowledging the blessings in your life, whether it's a supportive friend, a moment of quiet, or even a lesson learned from hardship, you cultivate a mindset of abundance rather than scarcity. And here's the beautiful part. When you're focused on what you're grateful for, you're less preoccupied with what's missing or what you can't control. Think about a time when you felt deeply grateful, maybe for a kind gesture, a beautiful sunset, or simply the gift of another day. In that moment, did you feel the weight of your worries or the pull of what you couldn't change? Probably not. Gratitude has a way of grounding you in the here and now, which is exactly where detachment thrives. To bring this idea into your own life, try this simple exercise. Each day, write down 3 things you're grateful for. They don't have to be grand or life-changing small. Everyday moments count just as much. As you practice this habit, you'll find that gratitude not only softens the edges of life's challenges, but also strengthens your ability to let go of what's beyond your control. It's a practice that doesn't just change your mindset, it changes how you experience the world. Have you ever felt disappointed because someone didn't meet your expectations, or because a situation didn't turn out the way you imagined? It's a universal experience, and while expectations can be helpful in setting goals, they can also become a source of frustration and heartache when they're unrealistic or rigid. The Stoics offer a powerful antidote to this, shifting your focus from outcomes to effort. Instead of fixating on how things should be, they encourage us to pour our energy into what we can control: our actions, intentions, and attitude. Seneca put it best when he said, "It's not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." In other words, life is too precious to spend trapped in the cycle of unmet expectations. Let's take relationships as an example. When you expect someone to always be available, to meet your needs perfectly, or to never make mistakes, you're setting yourself up for disappointment, and you're placing an unfair burden on them. Relationships aren't about control, they're about connection. By letting go of rigid expectations, you create space for genuine understanding and compassion. It's not about lowering your standards, it's about raising your awareness of what's realistic and meaningful. This shift doesn't just apply to relationships, it's equally relevant to personal goals and life's unpredictable twists. When you focus on doing your best rather than demanding a specific result, you free yourself from the weight of disappointment. Take a moment to reflect. Where in your life might you be holding on to unhealthy expectations? Are they serving you or are they holding you back? By adopting a Stoic mindset, you can release the need for things to go a certain way and instead find peace in the effort itself. It's a subtle but transformative shift, one that can lead to greater resilience, deeper connections, and a more fulfilling life. Silence is often overlooked in a world that values constant communication, but the Stoics understood its profound power. They saw silence not as emptiness, but as a tool for clarity, self-control, and connection. In a noisy, fast-paced world, choosing to speak less can actually make your words and your presence carry more weight. Think about it. When someone speaks sparingly, their words often feel more deliberate and impactful. This isn't about being aloof or distant. It's about creating space for thoughtfulness and intention in your interactions. Silence, in this sense, becomes a form of respect for yourself and for others. It allows you to listen more deeply, to reflect before you respond, and to avoid the pitfalls of impulsive or unnecessary speech. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." When you embrace silence, you give your soul and your mind the opportunity to absorb and process rather than react. Here's a practical way to incorporate this into your daily life. In conversations, pause before you speak. Instead of rushing to fill a gap, take a moment to consider whether your words add value or simply fill space. This small shift can transform how you communicate, helping you project calmness, confidence, and authenticity. Silence also has a way of creating mystery, not in a manipulative sense, but in a way that draws people toward you. When you speak less, others are naturally curious about what you're thinking or feeling. This curiosity can deepen connections as people feel invited to engage rather than overwhelmed by your words. So, the next time you're tempted to fill the air with chatter, remember the Stoic wisdom of silence. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. Change is the one constant in life, a truth the Stoics not only accepted but embraced wholeheartedly. The concept of impermanence, so central to Stoic thought, reminds us that nothing lasts forever. Relationships evolve, circumstances shift, and even our own identities transform over time. Instead of resisting this natural flow, the Stoics taught that we should align ourselves with it, finding strength in its inevitability. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, captured this idea perfectly. Everything is fleeting, both that which remembers and that which is remembered. At first glance, this might seem bleak, but it's actually liberating. When you accept that nothing is permanent, you stop clinging to what's in front of you and start appreciating it for what it is in the present moment. Think about a beautiful sunset. Its fleeting nature is what makes it so precious. If it lasted forever, would it hold the same magic? Impermanence teaches us to savor life's moments without trying to freeze them in time. This mindset also builds resilience. When you understand that challenges, like joys, are temporary, you're better equipped to face them with courage and adaptability. The loss of a job, the end of a relationship, or even a personal failure doesn't feel like the end of the world. It feels like a chapter in a larger story, one that's still being written. Embracing impermanence doesn't mean you stop caring or striving. It means you stop fearing change. You become more flexible, more open to new possibilities, and less likely to be knocked off course when life takes an unexpected turn. Take a moment to reflect. How might your life change if you stopped resisting impermanence and started embracing it? How much lighter might you feel if you let go of the need for things to stay the same? By adopting this Stoic perspective, you'll find a deeper sense of peace and a greater capacity to thrive in the ever-changing landscape of life. Navigating modern relationships can feel like walking a tightrope, balancing connection with independence, presence with boundaries, and vulnerability with self-preservation. Enter Stoic detachment, a philosophy that feels tailor-made for today's complexities. In a world where dating apps, social media, and long-distance dynamics dominate, detachment offers a way to stay grounded while still engaging deeply. Take dating, for example. It's easy to get caught up in the whirlwind of swipes, matches, and messages, constantly analyzing every interaction for signs of interest. But Stoic detachment invites us to approach dating differently. Instead of fixating on whether someone likes you or where the relationship is headed, focus on being present in each moment. Enjoy the conversation, appreciate the connection, and let the outcome unfold naturally. This shift not only reduces anxiety, but also makes you more authentic and attractive. Social media adds another layer of challenge. It's all too common to compare your relationships to curated snapshots of others' lives, leading to feelings of inadequacy or insecurity. Detachment here means stepping back from the need for external validation, whether it's likes, comments, or the appearance of a perfect relationship. Remember, what's shared online is often a highlight reel, not the full story. By detaching from this digital pressure, you can focus on building real, meaningful connections offline. Long-distance relationships, with their unique blend of intimacy and separation, also benefit from a Stoic approach. Instead of obsessing over the distance or counting down the days until the next visit, embrace the opportunity to grow individually while staying connected emotionally. Use the time apart to strengthen your own sense of self, knowing that a healthy relationship is built on two whole people, not two halves trying to become one. Detachment doesn't mean pulling away. It means staying centered in who you are while nurturing the bond you share. So, whether you're swiping, scrolling, or navigating miles apart, Stoic detachment offers a way to stay connected without losing yourself. It's a reminder that the most fulfilling relationships are those where both people are free to be themselves, unburdened by expectations, fear, or the need to control the uncontrollable. At the heart of Stoicism lies a powerful principle: self-sufficiency. It's the idea that true freedom comes from relying on yourself rather than depending on external sources for your happiness, validation, or sense of worth. This doesn't mean isolating yourself or rejecting help from others. It's about cultivating an inner strength that allows you to stand firm, no matter what life throws your way. Seneca, one of Stoicism's greatest thinkers, captured this beautifully when he said, "The greatest remedy for anger is delay." While this might seem unrelated at first, it's actually about self-control and self-reliance. When you're not dependent on others to fulfill your needs or soothe your emotions, you're less likely to react impulsively or feel powerless. This kind of independence is incredibly attractive. Think about it. People are naturally drawn to those who radiate confidence and stability, who seem unshaken by external circumstances. It's not about being aloof or distant. It's about being so grounded in your own worth that you don't need others to prop you up. Consider someone who's always seeking approval, constantly needing reassurance, or bending over backward to please others. While these actions might come from a place of kindness, they often stem from a lack of self-sufficiency. On the flip side, someone who's self-assured, who knows their value and doesn't need external validation, exudes a magnetic energy. This doesn't mean they're cold or unfeeling, quite the opposite. Their independence allows them to give freely without expecting anything in return, which creates healthier, more balanced relationships. Building self-sufficiency starts small. It might mean learning to enjoy your own company, pursuing a passion just for the joy of it, or practicing self-discipline in moments of frustration. Each step you take toward self-reliance strengthens your inner foundation, making you not just more resilient, but also more appealing to others. After all, there's nothing more attractive than someone who's comfortable in their own skin, unburdened by the need for external approval, someone who's truly free. Rejection. It's one of those experiences that can sting no matter how many times we face it. Whether it's a job application, a relationship, or even a simple conversation that doesn't go as planned, rejection has a way of making us question our worth. But what if we could see it differently? The Stoics offer a refreshing perspective. Rejection isn't a judgment of your value, it's an opportunity for growth and self-discovery. Instead of viewing it as a personal failure, they encourage us to see it as a natural part of life, something that happens to everyone and doesn't define who we are. Epictetus, who faced his own share of adversity, once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This simple yet profound idea shifts the focus from external circumstances to our internal response. When you're rejected, it's not the event itself that causes pain, it's the meaning you assign to it. By detaching from the need for approval and reframing rejection as feedback rather than failure, you can transform it into a tool for resilience. Imagine someone applying for a job and not getting it. Instead of seeing it as a reflection of their abilities, they could view it as a chance to refine their skills, explore new opportunities, or even discover a path that's better aligned with their strengths. This mindset doesn't just soften the blow, it turns rejection into a stepping stone for growth. Here's a thought to consider. What if every no you've received was actually a redirection, guiding you towards something more fitting or meaningful? By adopting this Stoic approach, you'll find that rejection doesn't have to hold you back. It can propel you forward, stronger and wiser than before. So, the next time you face rejection, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I use this experience to become a better version of myself? The answers might just surprise you. Detachment isn't just about freeing yourself from emotional entanglement. It's also about creating space for others to truly value your presence. Think about it. When you're always available, always trying to fill the silence or smooth over every rough patch, it can leave little room for the other person to miss you or even reflect on their own feelings. The Stoics believed in the power of balance and moderation, and this applies to relationships as well. By stepping back, you allow the relationship to breathe, giving both people the chance to appreciate each other more deeply. It's like giving a plant room to grow. If it's crowded or overwatered, it can't thrive, but with the right amount of space and care, it flourishes. So, how can you apply this in practical terms? Start by letting go of the need to constantly check in or seek reassurance. Trust the connection you've built and give the other person the freedom to come to you in their own time. This doesn't mean ignoring them or being aloof. It means allowing them the emotional space to process their own thoughts and feelings. Another simple yet powerful way to create space is to focus on your own life. Pursue your interests, nurture your friendships, and invest in activities that bring you joy. When you're fulfilled independently, you bring a richer, more vibrant energy to the relationship. It's a paradox, really. By giving others the freedom to miss you, you actually draw them closer. This isn't about playing games or manipulating emotions. It's about respecting both yourself and the other person enough to let the relationship unfold naturally. When you detach with intention, you create a dynamic where both people can show up authentically without pressure or pretense. And isn't that the kind of connection we all truly want? One of the most challenging lessons in Stoicism is also one of the most liberating, the myth of control. We often spend so much energy trying to shape how others think, feel, or act, whether it's convincing a partner to see things our way, seeking approval from a colleague, or trying to fix someone we care about. But here's the truth: we can't control others. Their thoughts, actions, and choices are entirely their own. This idea might feel unsettling at first, but it's also incredibly freeing. Epictetus, a Stoic philosopher who lived centuries ago, put it simply: some things are within our power while others are not. When you fully embrace this principle, you stop wasting energy on what you can't change and start focusing on what you can: your own mindset, actions, and responses. This shift is transformative, especially in relationships. Instead of trying to control or manipulate how someone feels about you, you can focus on being the best version of yourself. You show up authentically with kindness and integrity, and let the other person respond in their own time and way. This doesn't mean you stop caring or setting boundaries. It means you stop trying to force outcomes that aren't yours to control. For example, imagine you're in a disagreement with a friend. Instead of trying to change their mind or win the argument, you focus on expressing your perspective calmly and respectfully. You detach from the need for them to agree with you, trusting that the relationship is strong enough to weather differing opinions. This approach not only reduces conflict but also fosters mutual respect and understanding. Letting go of the illusion of control is like releasing a tight grip on a rope. It might feel uncomfortable at first, but it allows you to move more freely and with less strain. When you stop trying to control others, you create space for more genuine, fulfilling connections. It's a subtle but profound way to build healthier relationships with others and with yourself. Patience is often overlooked, yet it's one of the most powerful tools in the practice of Stoic detachment. At its core, patience is about trusting the natural flow of life and relationships rather than forcing them to fit into a predetermined timeline. This doesn't mean sitting back passively. It means actively choosing to let things unfold without resistance or anxiety. The Stoics believed that true peace comes from accepting the pace of life, not trying to outrun it. Think about it: when you rush a relationship, whether it's pushing for commitment, over-communicating, or trying to resolve every issue immediately, it often has the opposite effect. Instead of deepening the connection, it creates pressure that can push the other person away. Patience, on the other hand, creates a sense of ease and trust. It's like planting a seed and allowing it to grow at its own pace. You can't pull it out of the ground to check on its roots without damaging it. In relationships, patience allows both people to feel safe and valued, free to connect in a way that's authentic and unforced. This doesn't mean you ignore red flags or settle for less than you deserve. It means you give the relationship the space it needs to develop naturally. Here's a practical way to cultivate patience. Practice mindfulness in your daily interactions. When you feel the urge to rush or control, pause and take a deep breath. Remind yourself that timing is often out of your hands, and trust that the right things will happen when they're meant to. By embracing patience as part of your Stoic practice, you'll find that not only do your relationships flourish, but you also gain a deeper sense of inner calm, one that allows you to navigate life's uncertainties with grace and resilience. Setting boundaries might seem like a modern concept, but the Stoics understood its value long before it became a buzzword. At its core, boundaries are about self-respect, an essential Stoic principle. They're not walls meant to keep people out, but guidelines that help you protect your energy, values, and well-being. Think of boundaries as the guardrails on a winding road. They don't restrict your journey, they ensure you stay on a path that's safe and aligned with your purpose. Without them, it's easy to lose yourself in the demands and expectations of others. The Stoics believed that living a virtuous life required knowing your limits and having the courage to enforce them. Seneca, for example, often spoke about the importance of saying no when something conflicts with your values or drains your peace. This isn't about being rigid or unkind. It's about being honest and intentional about what you're willing to accept. For instance, imagine a friend who frequently cancels plans at the last minute. Without boundaries, you might keep accommodating their behavior, even though it leaves you feeling undervalued and frustrated. But by setting a clear boundary, say, letting them know you'll need to make other plans if they cancel again, you're not only respecting your own time and needs, but also teaching them how to respect you. This kind of assertiveness isn't selfish. It's a form of self-care that ultimately strengthens the relationship. Boundaries also free you from the need to control how others respond. When you communicate them clearly and calmly, you detach from the outcome, knowing you've done your part to uphold your values. It's a subtle but powerful way to practice Stoic detachment, not by withdrawing from the world, but by engaging with it on your own terms. So, take a moment to reflect. Where in your life might you need to set or reinforce boundaries? How can doing so help you live more authentically and peacefully? When you honor your limits, you create space for healthier, more meaningful connections with others and with yourself. Detachment and authenticity might seem like separate ideas, but in Stoic philosophy, they're deeply connected. At its heart, detachment is about letting go of the need to control external outcomes, whether it's someone's opinion of you, the success of a relationship, or even the way others perceive your choices. When you detach from these external pressures, something remarkable happens. You become more authentic. Without the weight of trying to please or impress others, you're free to show up as your true self. And here's the beautiful part: authenticity is magnetic. People are drawn to those who are genuine, who don't feel the need to put on a mask or hide behind expectations. This is a core Stoic principle: living in alignment with your values, no matter what others think. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." In other words, when you're clear about who you are and what you stand for, you create an inner harmony that radiates outward. Imagine being in a room full of people, all trying to fit in or be someone they're not. Then there's one person who's completely at ease, unapologetically themselves. Who would you be drawn to? Chances are it's the person who isn't trying too hard, the one who's grounded in their own truth. This is the power of authenticity, and it's rooted in detachment. When you stop seeking validation or approval, you naturally align with your core values, and that alignment becomes a beacon for others. It's not about being perfect or having all the answers. It's about being real. Here's a reflective question to consider. How often do you feel like you're wearing a mask to fit in or meet others' expectations? What would it look like to let that go and embrace your true self? By practicing Stoic detachment, you create the space to do just that, to live authentically, unburdened by the need for external validation. And when you do, you'll find that the right people and opportunities are naturally drawn to you, not because you're trying to attract them, but because you're being your authentic self. Longing. It's a feeling most of us know well, whether it's missing someone who's no longer in our lives or yearning for a connection that feels just out of reach. At first glance, it's easy to see longing as something painful, a void that needs to be filled. But the Stoics offer a different perspective. instead of viewing it as a source of suffering, they see it as an opportunity for self-discovery and growth. When you miss someone, it's not just about the absence of their presence. It's a chance to reflect on what that connection meant to you and how it shaped who you are. In this way, longing becomes a teacher, guiding you toward deeper self-awareness and resilience. Marcus Aurelius, a philosopher who often grappled with the complexities of human emotion, wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." In other words, the very thing that feels like an obstacle, whether it's missing someone or facing a challenge, can be the catalyst for transformation. Think about it. When you're missing someone, it's often a sign that they've had a meaningful impact on your life. Instead of resisting that feeling, what if you embraced it as a moment to explore your own emotions and values? What lessons did that person teach you? What qualities did you admire in them, and how can you cultivate those qualities within yourself? By shifting your focus from what's missing to what you've gained, you turn longing into a tool for personal growth. This doesn't mean you stop feeling the ache of their absence. It means you channel that energy into something constructive. Maybe it's rediscovering a passion, strengthening your relationships with others, or simply learning to be more comfortable with your own company. When you approach longing with this mindset, it becomes less about the pain of separation and more about the wisdom it brings. So, the next time you find yourself missing someone, ask yourself, what can this moment teach me? How can I use this feeling to become a stronger, more self-aware version of myself? The answers might just lead you to a deeper understanding of who you are and what truly matters to you. Self-reflection is the cornerstone of Stoic detachment, a practice that helps you step back from the noise of daily life and see yourself more clearly. It's not about overanalyzing every thought or emotion, but rather observing them with curiosity and kindness, like a scientist studying their own mind. When you take time to reflect, you begin to notice patterns in your reactions, why certain situations trigger you, what you're truly seeking in your relationships, and where you might be relying too heavily on external validation. This awareness is the first step toward detachment. The Stoics, particularly Marcus Aurelius, were big advocates of daily journaling as a tool for self-reflection. His personal writings, later known as meditations, weren't meant for anyone else. They were his way of processing his thoughts, aligning with his values, and finding clarity in the chaos of ruling an empire. Journaling, in this sense, becomes a mirror, reflecting your inner world so you can better understand and navigate it. Here's a simple exercise to get started. At the end of each day, ask yourself 3 questions. First, what did I learn today? This could be about a new insight, a mistake, or even a moment of joy. Second, where did I struggle to let go? Identify situations where you felt overly attached to an outcome or person. Finally, how can I approach this differently tomorrow? This helps you turn reflection into actionable growth. By regularly engaging in this practice, you'll start to see your emotional patterns more clearly, making it easier to detach from what you can't control and focus on what you can. It's not about perfection, it's about progress, one small step at a time. And as you grow in self-awareness, you'll find that detachment becomes less of a struggle and more of a natural, empowering way of living. Loving deeply without losing yourself, it's a delicate balance, but one that Stoicism helps us navigate with grace. At first glance, love and detachment might seem like opposites. After all, love is often associated with closeness, connection, and vulnerability, while detachment conjures images of distance or emotional reserve. But Stoicism offers a different perspective. It's possible to love fully and fiercely while maintaining your own sense of self and inner peace. The key lies in understanding that love isn't about possession or control, it's about appreciation and respect. Think of it like holding water in your hands. If you clench your fists too tightly, the water slips through your fingers. But if you hold it gently, cupping your hands just enough to cradle it, the water stays with you. Love works the same way. When you grip too tightly, whether it's demanding constant attention, needing approval, or trying to shape someone into who you want them to be, you risk suffocating the very connection you're trying to nurture. Instead, Stoicism teaches us to love from a place of freedom. This means valuing the other person for who they are, not who you want them to be, and trusting the relationship enough to let it unfold naturally. It's about giving love without expecting it to fill every void in your life. After all, true love thrives in a space where both people feel free to be themselves, unburdened by control or dependency. Here's a question to reflect on. In your relationships, are you loving from a place of freedom or fear? Are you holding on too tightly, or are you creating the space for love to grow naturally? Remember, the most meaningful connections are built on mutual respect and the freedom to evolve, both individually and together. By embracing this balance, you'll find that love becomes not a source of anxiety, but a source of strength and joy, one that enriches your life without defining it. Detachment opens the door to a rare and profound kind of freedom. The freedom to experience life fully without being chained to its ups and downs. This is what the Stoics called ataraxia, a state of inner tranquility that comes from mastering your own emotions rather than being ruled by them. Ataraxia isn't about shutting out the world or numbing yourself to feelings. It's about finding a steady center, a place where external circumstances can't shake your peace. Think of it like being in the eye of a storm. Chaos may swirl around you, but inside there's calm. Seneca, one of Stoicism's most eloquent voices, captured this beautifully when he said, "True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future." In other words, emotional freedom comes from letting go of the need to control what's outside your power and focusing instead on how you respond to it. Consider a situation where you're waiting for an important message. Maybe a job offer or a response from someone you care about. The longer you wait, the more your mind starts racing, creating scenarios and attaching your happiness to an outcome you can't control. But what if, instead of letting anxiety take over, you chose to focus on the present moment? What if you reminded yourself that no matter what happens, you have the strength to handle it? This shift doesn't just reduce stress, it gives you the clarity to see opportunities and solutions you might have missed otherwise. Detachment, in this sense, isn't about disengaging from life. It's about engaging with it more fully without the weight of fear or expectation. When you stop tying your happiness to external outcomes, you rediscover the joy of simply being alive, and that's the ultimate freedom, one that no circumstance can take away from you. Humility might not be the first trait that comes to mind when thinking about detachment, but in Stoic philosophy, it's a cornerstone of emotional freedom. At its core, humility is about recognizing your own limitations and understanding that you're not the center of the universe. It's a mindset that frees you from the need for constant recognition or approval because you're no longer trying to prove your worth to others. The Stoics believed that true wisdom comes from knowing what you don't know, a form of modesty that keeps you grounded and open to growth. Marcus Aurelius, despite being one of the most powerful men in the world, often reminded himself of his own insignificance in the grand scheme of things. Think of the vastness of time, he wrote, and how little space you occupy in it. This perspective isn't about diminishing your value. It's about seeing yourself as part of something larger, which naturally reduces the need for external validation. Think about a time when you worked hard on a project only to have someone else get the credit. If you're attached to the need for recognition, this can feel like a crushing blow. But if you approach it with humility, you can acknowledge your efforts without needing others to validate them. The work itself becomes the reward, not the applause that may or may not follow. This shift in mindset doesn't just ease frustration, it also makes you more resilient in the face of disappointment. Humility allows you to detach from outcomes and focus on what truly matters, the effort you put in and the lessons you've learned along the way. Here's a practical way to cultivate humility. Regularly reflect on your contributions without seeking external praise. Ask yourself, did I do my best? Did I act with integrity and purpose? When the answers are yes, that's enough. No one else's approval is needed. This practice not only fosters self-awareness but also deepens your sense of inner peace. By embracing humility, you'll find that detachment becomes less about letting go and more about holding onto what's truly important: your values, your growth, and your ability to navigate life with grace and resilience. Detachment at its core is a form of respect, a way of honoring the autonomy and individuality of others. When you detach, you're essentially saying, I trust you to make your own choices and I value the space you need to be yourself. This isn't about indifference or distance. It's about recognizing that everyone has their own journey, their own thoughts, and their own pace. The Stoics believed deeply in treating others with dignity, not because of what they could give or how they could benefit you, but simply because they are human beings deserving of respect. Epictetus, for example, often spoke about the importance of seeing people as they are, not as we wish them to be. This mindset shifts the focus from control to understanding, creating a foundation for healthier, more authentic connections. Imagine you're in a relationship where you're constantly trying to change someone, subtly nudging them to be more communicative, more ambitious, or more aligned with your expectations. Even if your intentions are good, this approach can feel suffocating to the other person. It sends the message that who they are isn't enough. Detachment, in contrast, says you are enough as you are, and I respect your right to grow in your own way. This doesn't mean you stop caring or communicating. It means you stop trying to mold them into your ideal version. Consider this reflective prompt. How do you show respect for the people in your life? Are you allowing them the space to be themselves, or are you unintentionally imposing your own expectations? Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is step back and let someone breathe, trusting that the relationship will grow stronger when both people feel free to be who they are. By embracing detachment as a form of respect, you not only honor others' individuality, but also create the conditions for deeper, more meaningful connections. Connections built on mutual understanding and genuine care. The Stoic approach to letting go isn't about cutting ties or abandoning what's meaningful. It's about recognizing when something no longer serves you and having the courage to release it. Whether it's a relationship that's run its course, a habit that's holding you back, or a mindset that's keeping you stuck, letting go creates space for something new to grow. Epictetus, a Stoic philosopher who understood the weight of attachment, once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This simple yet profound idea reminds us that our strength lies not in clinging to what's familiar, but in our ability to adapt and move forward. Think of it like pruning a tree. You wouldn't let dead branches weigh it down, would you? Instead, you carefully remove what's no longer thriving, allowing the tree to redirect its energy toward new growth. In the same way, when you let go of what no longer serves you, you make room for fresh opportunities, healthier relationships, and a more aligned version of yourself. This doesn't mean the process is easy. Letting go often requires confronting discomfort or fear, but the rewards are worth it. For example, consider a friendship that's become one-sided or a job that no longer challenges you. Holding onto these out of habit or fear of the unknown might feel safe, but it also keeps you from exploring what could be. By releasing what no longer fits, you open the door to experiences that better align with who you are and where you're headed. It's not about giving up, it's about making space for what truly matters. Here's a way to start. Reflect on an area of your life where you feel stuck. Are you holding onto something out of fear, obligation, or simply because it's what you've always done? What might happen if you released it and allowed yourself to move forward? Remember, letting go isn't a loss, it's an act of self-respect and an investment in your future. By embracing this Stoic principle, you'll find that the act of release often leads to the most unexpected and fulfilling forms of growth. At the heart of Stoic detachment lies a profound truth. It's not about shutting people out or being indifferent, it's about mastering yourself. Throughout this video, we've explored how letting go of the need to control, seeking validation, or cling to outcomes can transform not just your relationships but your entire approach to life. Detachment, in the Stoic sense, is about creating space for others to breathe, for connections to grow naturally, and for you to remain grounded in your own worth. When you stop chasing, you start attracting. When you stop needing, you start thriving. And when you stop clinging, you invite others to truly value your presence. Detachment isn't a rejection of love or care. It's a deeper, wiser way of engaging with both. It's about understanding that you can't control how others feel or act, but you can control how you show up, calm, confident, and authentic. This self-mastery is magnetic. It draws people toward you because they sense your stability, your independence, and your genuine care. As we wrap up, let's return to a timeless Stoic principle from Epictetus. Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. This quote encapsulates the essence of what we've discussed today. Detachment as a path to freedom, both emotionally and relationally. When you let go of what you can't control, you reclaim your power, your peace, and your ability to connect deeply without losing yourself. So, how can you start applying these principles in your life? Begin small. Practice pausing before reacting. Reflect on what's truly within your control, and remind yourself that your worth doesn't depend on external validation. Over time, these habits will help you embody the calm, grounded presence that naturally makes others miss you, not because you're absent, but because you're fully, authentically present. If this video resonated with you, don't just watch it, live it. Take these ideas, make them your own, and see how they transform your relationships and your inner world. And if you found value here, hit the like button, share it with someone who might benefit, and let us know in the comments how you're applying Stoic detachment in your life. Remember, the secret to making others miss you isn't about playing games. It's about becoming the kind of person who's impossible to forget. To take these ideas further and truly integrate Stoic detachment into your life, there are plenty of resources and tools to guide you. If you're interested in diving deeper into Stoic philosophy, start with the classics. Marcus Aurelius' Meditations is a timeless guide to self-reflection and inner peace, while Epictetus' Insecurity offers practical wisdom on living a life free from unnecessary attachments. For a more modern take, Ryan Holiday's The Daily Stoic provides daily meditations that make Stoic principles accessible and actionable. These books aren't just about reading, they're about practice, offering insights you can apply to your own journey of letting go and finding freedom. But philosophy doesn't have to live only on the page. Practical tools can help bring these principles to life. Journaling, for instance, is a powerful way to reflect on your emotions and experiences. Try using prompts like, "What am I holding onto that I need to release?" Or "How can I respond to this situation with greater clarity and calm?" Writing these reflections helps you process your thoughts and gain perspective, making detachment more than just an idea, it becomes a habit. Guided meditations can also be a valuable resource, especially those focused on mindfulness or letting go. Apps like Headspace or Calm offer sessions specifically designed to help you cultivate inner peace and emotional resilience. Even a few minutes a day can make a difference, training your mind to stay present and grounded, no matter what's happening around you. And of course, don't forget to explore other videos and articles on this topic. Whether it's another deep dive into Stoic principles or a personal story about applying detachment in real life, hearing different perspectives can deepen your understanding and inspire new ways to practice these ideas. As you explore these resources, remember that the goal isn't to master detachment overnight, it's to take small, consistent steps toward a more centered, authentic way of living. Each book, prompt, or meditation is a tool to help you along the way, transforming Stoic wisdom into real, everyday